All right, so today we got a very special guest. We don't get a lot of female guests, so this is amazing. So we have a property expert, and she's also a financing expert. So, Vicky, how do we actually describe you to the people that have never heard of you, to the audience that just want to find out more about you?
First and foremost, Desmond, thank you very much for having me in this conversation. And usually people call me Vicky How, but I have a title in front, and as you can see that there's a SR that stands for surveyor. So usually people call surveyor Vicky How.
All right. So what does a surveyor do for those people that don't understand what a surveyor does?
Okay, surveyor, doctor, architect, each professional, they have got their title in front, DR, AR, IR, all this kind of things. My one is actually SR, stand for surveyor, and surveyor actually do a different kind of roles. We have got an association just like architect or engineers. Our association is actually called RISM, Royal Institute Surveyor Malaysia. So this whole surveyor actually includes land surveyor, quantity surveyor, valuers, and etc. So my job is actually a valuer. I'm actually a property valuer, whereby I help people to value their properties when they want to refinance their property, or they want to sell their property, or even for audit purpose. I jump in and help them to value their property.
That's very interesting. Like, do you only value real estate, or do you value anything else? Like, for example, gemstones, I don't know, some other people's treasure. Do you do that? Because I don't know. Like, I know there is something called a valuer, but I'm not sure if you guys also value other things as well.
That are different kind of valuer. There are jewelry valuer, but there are also different kind of valuer for machinery, for jewelry, for property. My niche is actually in property industry.
Right. So let's really talk about property, because I think it's very interesting perspective to discuss property right now. We as we are recording this, actually we are in quarantine. Otherwise, I would have invited you into our studio and filmed this. But right now we're in quarantine or lockdown, whatever you want to call it. But essentially, the market is going through some really interesting changes right now. And I want you to just maybe, give the audience some ideas, some pointers, some suggestions. What should they do within the property circle or property industry right now? Do you think there is an opportunity at play? Do you think there is something that they can do right now with very little money or less money? Or do you think there's, once in a decade opportunity here?
Actually, it's an interesting question, because a few days ago, there is another valuer in the market, he's very senior. Actually, he came out with an article that, after this MCO, property will drop by 70%. So this is a very contradicting, kind of a remark without any basis. So is that true that property price would drop tremendously? Now, one of the things that they have to know, that our government actually do very well in terms of this coronavirus pandemic. So what our government did was to give us deferments of 6 months period. Now, this 6 months period will actually helps on those people who have not been able to afford their property. This is a golden opportunity that they can take on to, not having to pay their property for 6 months. And then they have plenty of times, up to 6 months, to gather their finances and also to manage their cash flow. So actually, property price will actually increase. Now, after the pandemic, this MCO, you will see a surge of auction property, but that is normal because all this auction property has been put on pause. That means throughout this whole entire 1 month, there must be some auction property going on auction, but it's already ongoing. But because of this MCO, they have put it on pause. So right after this MCO, there will be a surge number of auction going out. And after this group of auction off, this group of properties have been auctioned off, and there will be a delay in auction properties. So in a sense that we know that this market has reached a rock bottom. So the next thing that will going to happen is that the market is going to rebound back and become resilient and increase in property price. However, this is going to take about 6 months to 12 months or even 2 years to complete this entire cycle.
So now that's really interesting. Now, when you say property, are you referring to residential plus commercial, or are you just referring to residential, or are you just referring to commercial?
Actually, I'm referring to residential, commercial, and also factories.
Right.
So look at it this way. If there is a lot of people's properties going to auction off, which a lot of people are afraid of, that means there will be less owner in the market. If there's less owner in the market, there will be more tenant in the market. Right now, we have more owners than tenant in the market. So a lot of people are not able to rent out their property. So there will be a revolution of property ownership in a sense.
Well, what do you think about the retail shops? Like I'm talking about first floor retail, maybe shopping mall retail, because the issue that we are suffering right now is that the retail stores are very, very fragile. Their business
Correct.
model, literally right now, because of the lockdown and the quarantine, they're not allowed to run their stores, and businesses are closing down every single day, especially those that are involved in retail. Like I'll just take a beauty salon, for example, right? If they don't have a store where they can actually touch their customer's face and touch their customer's hands,
Correct.
they cannot perform their services, and because of that, no revenue is coming in, and they're closing down, unfortunately, right? So a lot of experts I was reading on the news and CNBC, they were saying that retail is getting hit the hardest. Like in New York City, prior to COVID-19, New York City and Mayfair in London, which are one of the, I would say, biggest shopping retail parts of the big cities, their rent have not been going up for the last 3 years. So what is your view on the retail? Because I know, years ago, people are saying, oh, invest in retail. People are going to, when you serve business owners, they'll pay the rent because they don't want to move, right? What's your opinion about investing in retail shops or retail, real estate?
This whole pandemic going to change the way people shop as well. It's actually not just in terms of the ownership, it's also changing the way that you need to invest, what kind of property you need to invest in. For many years ago, I think, Desmond, you know it the best because you are in the IT, internet industry. So for about 2 decades ago, people started shopping online already. But for Malaysian, we are a special creature that we want to touch the items. We must go and see the item before we buy the item. So these are the Malaysian culture. Compared to UK, when I was in UK 10 over years ago, I was doing internet marketing and I was doing very, very well because during winter, we don't want to go out of the place. And especially autumn, it's so annoying. The wind is going to blow off your hair everywhere. You don't feel like going out. But because Malaysia is all the time sunny day, you can just go out anytime you want. And we have, every one of us has got our own transport, not like, in UK or US, public transport is the only transport that you have. So talking about which, so this would change the entire market, how they're going to shop. Because this atmosphere, this pandemic has forced us to shop online for our grocery shopping, our, food, tapaoing food, and even buying all this hardware, repair things yourself. It's going to change your behavior entirely, and this is not just going to take like 30 days. I've foreseen that it's going to be another 2 more weeks to 4 weeks for this MCO period. So if this 30 days going to shape your habit into something, if you're going to shape the habit of shop online, so in the future a lot of shops, a lot of the retails would not be no longer applicable anymore. Just like in UK or US, a lot of shopping mall has converted into apartments due to this reason as well. So in other words, many people will move their business to online, and actually online has got a better market. You are not just limited to geographically, but you are actually expanding your business to international wise as well. Looking at this, a lot of people who invest into retails, you will have a lot of issue of not able to renting out, or you will have issue of not able to rent at a good price. Just like Times Square, many years ago they were very cheap, and then up to one certain point in time, it was like 4,000 ringgit per square feet in the retails. But right now, I will see that this is going to be a threat to all this retails lot. On the other hand, because everybody is going to run their business online, so they still need a warehouse anyway. They still need an office. So offices and also factories will have a good demand.
So you're saying there's going to be a shift in terms of where people rent their places and where people spend their money. So people are going to spend less in retail because they don't see the need to go retail. And then they're still going to need a warehouse, and they'll still need basically an office to do the administration work. Is that what you're trying to point out?
Yes.
So retail is the one that is a little bit more, I would say, volatile and hard to predict right now. But I think retail is gonna do well for certain businesses that is very experiential, like Gucci store, for
Luxury
example.
items.
If you go
Yeah,
into
luxury.
Gucci, exactly,
Yes.
right? So I think they're gonna be less affected by this because people still want to be served. They want that
Correct.
experience. But I think if you're one of those stores that are competing on prices, you're competing on goods that someone can get online, right? Then it's gonna be tough. You know what's crazy? There is a lot of the big, because I'm really into watches. I like collecting watches, and one of the brands I follow is Patek Philippe and Rolex. These two brands, they don't really sell online, right? You cannot buy these watches directly from the source online. And right now, a lot of these authorized dealers, the people that actually open the retail shops in the US, now they're putting their stocks online and they're selling directly to consumer online, which I thought was crazy, because what's going to happen is that I think business is going to change in a very, very different way. I think the middleman is going to be cut out. I think maybe even manufacturer and supplier might go direct to consumer if they're going online. So I think the whole entire business model would change. But in terms of like your position, like right now, I know you're very in tune in a property marketplace. Right? I want to talk about some opportunity. What can we play? What can we do? Because you're talking about auction property, and we can't go to auction right now, obviously, because it's not the time yet. But we believe that the property will be a lot more cheaper, lower market value perhaps over the next few months. What can people do to get involved in auction? Because this is not something people talk about. Like a lot of property gurus, they like to talk about new development, right? A buy and then they get cash back, that kind of crap, right? So let's really talk about auction. How do we get involved in auction?
Okay, put it this way. The reason why I love auction so much is compared to all this kind of cashback property, like what you mentioned, these are all the property that's temporarily giving you some cash, but you still have to pay back the bank because you borrow this amount of cash out. So these are not the profit that you make. So instead of buying this kind of property, I buy auction property whereby I buy and then I flip it, and this is actually my net profit. So in other words, this is actually making profit. So
do you fix it up before you flip it, or do you just flip it? Like you buy and then you flip, or do you fix it up?
No, I'm lazy actually.
That's the secret. That's the secret, right?
Yes, because you have to, before you buy the property, the most important thing is you must know that whether this property has got the potential to increase in value or not. Is there a potential of the capital appreciation? Now, if you already buy it at the market rate, or you buy it even below the market rate, but there's no demand in that area, what's the point of continuing buying it and you think that it's going to sell at a good price? It's not going to be. And most importantly is whether this property has got a lot of population in that area. If got population in that area, it means has got a good demand as well. And of course, we want to know how much of supply in that area. So these are the tricks, a little bit of tips for buying auction property. And of course,
where do people find this auction property? Where do people find all this auction property? Like, are they available to be seen online? Is there a list?
Actually, yes. In online, you can find it in Lelong Tips and Lelong Mart. All this kind of website, they offer Lelong property. But the thing is, what I usually do is I want a first-hand information whereby all this kind of website, they haven't advertised it. Even all these agents have not advertised their property. I want to get it first-hand information. So that is where I make most of my fortune from. So I don't go and look online and all that. So I have my own list of property that comes to me, which I actually share it to my students as well. There are thousands of them. And from all these thousands of them, you don't have to worry about whether good market, will I still get auction property? Of course you will still get auction property, because this is not about the economy is good or not. It's about how people manage their cash flow and how people manage their finances. So in good time, you're still able to find auction property. But it's just bad time, you will have plenty of them.
Okay, so basically you're saying that you can go to like websites online, you can look at some potential properties, and then you shortlist it based on your criteria. Usually you look at population and the supply and demand, and then you acquire the property. Like how big of a discount are you getting usually from auction property, like below market value by how many %?
I'm very greedy, Desmond. I usually take about 30 to 40% of the below market value, because my idea is that I do not want to have very high risk. So what I do is usually I take about 30-40%, and then after when I bid, I still have about 20 to 30% of buffering. And then what I do is that I sell it off at below market value about 10% to quickly get rid of it. So I make about 20% net, 20 to 15% net, and then I repeat my process over and over again.
It sounds like what you're really doing is, I don't know what's the right term to call it. It's sort of like property entrepreneurship. It's not really investing, but that's what I like about it, because a lot of people think too much about long-term investing, but they always say that, oh, this area is going to become the next ... It's going to become the next amazing thing. But I think at the end of the day, cash is going to be the one that is the most liquid, and it gives you the choices and options. Too many people, I think in Malaysia especially, what happens is that they invest in property for the long term, and they wait 20, 30 years until it appreciates before they actually become quote unquote wealthy or rich. And I don't know about that, but I think it's important to make the money right now, right? So I like that. Let's say I'm gonna give you an example case study here. Let's say in Damansara you found a 1 million market value house, and at auction you're able to buy at 30% below market value, which is 700,000, right? So what's the next step do we do? Do we go to the bank to finance? Is that what you recommend? Or do you pull a bunch of investors together so that they'll maybe get some return? What's the strategy there?
There are a few strategies that I will do. First of all, I will take a bank, or either I go direct to the owner and discuss with the owner on the terms and conditions. So I do not have to go through the bank. I do not have to go through, in other words, I bypass the auction process. So this way, I do not have to take a look. I do not incur any, what is that called? I did not incur any MOT and also RPGT at all. Yes. So I can actually bypass all this thing and make a clean profit out of it. This is one method. Another method is using the bank financing. Another method is that I will also discuss with the bank and also the owner and see what we can actually do in between. So in other words, my job is to resolve the owner's problem. So from letting it to be auctioned, I try to salvage the property from being auctioned.
Okay, so essentially you're saying that, let's say the owner cannot, especially the first method, let's say the owner cannot settle the mortgage. You go in and are you settling the mortgage for the owner? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, in other words, yes. It also depends.
I think that's very smart.
Although it's very smart, I have done dumb things before. Just give you some perspective of my experience. I have done it once whereby I did not check the owner's background, whereby the owner actually a bankrupt. So as the owner become bankrupt, I don't sign anything at all. So in other words, I actually went through, because I already paid the owner some certain amount of money, so I have to went through the insolvency departments and clear off his bankruptcy and pay all his outstanding credit card debts. And then after he become free from bankruptcy, only I can officially buy back the property from him. I've done stupid things before in my life, but these are all the experience I have accumulated from all these silly things that I've done.
Wow. Okay. Well, I think it's really interesting because, yesterday I was at a bank. I was talking to one of my banker, and he was telling me that right now there might be a lot of good deals in the sub-sale market and the auction market as well. And that's why it's so great that we're talking about this. But Vicky, one of the big thing is a lot of property gurus out there, they often talk about, speculation type of investing, basically buying in a new area, buying in areas that you don't even live in or know a lot about. Yeah, but what do you think about what's being taught out there versus the strategy that you're using? I'm just curious.
I'm not a very patient person, to be honest with you. If you ask me to invest into new township, I will have to look into how fast this township can actually be, vibrant and have lots of crowd coming in. The importance is how fast they can gather all the population to come in. And usually it will take a long, long time. I'm already, quite old already. I do not want to wait another 20 years for this township to be vibrant again. So I don't follow the market trend whereby they say hotspot lah, next upcoming spot. I don't do that. First of all, hotspot, if people say hotspot, like Bangsa, KLCC, all these kind of places, they're already too hot already. In other words, their price already very, very high. There's no point for me to go inside there to invest. unless I'm buying it for the reason that I want to have a holiday home, then I have to know that I have to have mentally, I'm already prepared that the return is very bad. Okay, so I usually get out of this hotspot place, and I don't invest in new township unless it is a very good township. Many reasons, and there are a lot of potential up and coming potential coming in, like LRT station and all that, highways and whatnot. So usually I don't go to new township. I usually go invest in outskirts, and I invest in somewhere that people don't want to invest, because majority of this kind of auction properties, if you go inside, you find all this hotspot, you will never have a spot for you to sit inside the room. So you probably have to stand outside the room. So I don't usually invest into hotspots. And I have two kind of strategies, whereby one is that I'm talking to you about the flipping. I buy, and then after a few months later, I sell it off. Another strategy that I have is a keeping strategy, whereby I buy it because the rental income is very, very high. So my requirement for rental income very high is 10%, minimum 10%. So I will keep this property and I will not sell it, because these are all my passive income properties.
Okay, that's fantastic. So let me know. I'm curious now that you said that we're avoiding the hot spots because they're very competitive, very hard to get into the auction in the first place. What kind of areas are you looking at? Are you looking at other states? Are you looking at, just outside suburbs of Kuala Lumpur? Where are you looking at? Give maybe 2 or 3 examples.
Okay, just give you an example. Like, for example, we have got Bantin area. Not many people heard about Bantin area, or we ever heard of Panglima Garang, all these kind of places. It's really, really outskirts. Jinjarum. These are the places whereby there are upcoming gems, but no one actually went there and discovered this kind of place. And of course, there are also some border of Thailand. These are the places that I'm actually looking into as well.
Wait, so you travel all around the nation a lot just to look at a property too, yeah?
Yes.
Wow.
I actually travel a lot by car. I like to drive long distance. And besides that, I don't just invest into Malaysia. I invest overseas as well, like, Thailand, Melbourne, and London as well. I invest into all these kind of countries. Whenever I go for a holiday, and I tend to have one full day to visit all those properties. I will, every time I travel, I will have to visit property no matter what.
Okay, so that's very interesting. Like, listen, auction property, why don't you put down like step by step what people can do to learn more about auction property, how they can get started? Because people that teach about auction property is not a lot. A lot of people out there, I mean, online, people talk about lease option a lot. I'm sure you're familiar with that term. People talk about rent to rent. People talk about the buying from new developer and then getting that cash back. These are the common strategies being circulated online, being circulated among the gurus, right? So I'm curious about the auction property, because I've never interviewed anyone that talk about auction property yet. So step by step, how would you do it? Step 1, okay, we're talking about shortlisting a not so hot area, right? Because we want to avoid the overpriced, prime area. So let's go. How did you find all these like little gems that nobody heard of?
Okay, so first of all, I will look into what kind of properties I want to buy. Okay, either if I'm looking for residential, factory, or commercial. So many people actually tell me this, but Vicky, where is the good deal? Good deal. Do you have any good deal for me? Good deal is everywhere, but what do you want to invest in? Do you want to invest in factory or commercial or residential? So I will prepare myself. What is next things I want to prepare? I want to invest into. So out of this 3 category, I will choose one. So when I decided I want to choose that category to buy, and then I will choose into thousands of units of properties, I will shortlist a few out and look into them. A few things I need to look into. First of all, I need to do a title search first. Property in auction property are not safe to buy, because they have the reason why it's being auctioned off. There must be some reason. Either they actually, beside owning the bank, they also own, loan shark and whatnot. So these people have the rights and interest to actually caveat their property. We are afraid of is the property being caveat. Once the property is being caveat, it's very hard to uplift the caveat. It will take up to 1 to 2 years, and the amount to unlift the caveat is going to cost you about 100,000. So it's not worth for you to go ahead with it. That's one. And then the two is some of these properties are not able for you to rebuild. For example, land. If you are buying a piece of land, there are a lot of things that you need to watch out for. For example, the easement, the right of way, all these kind of things you have to watch out for, because these are the reason why a lot of development are not able to done on empty piece of land. So these are the things that we need to watch out for. And then after you do a title search, next thing you need to do some due diligence about the building as well. You see, the auction property is not like a sub-sale whereby you can go in and have a look at the property. That's why nobody actually dare to buy auction property. It's because they're scared that what if I buy something inside that is rubbish, or inside. I heard of another horror story whereby this is one of my contractor who told me, my very close contractor. He told me that there was one property that he needs to renovate. It belongs to a Dato's mistress, and they broke up. Both of them broke up. After they broke up, the Dato didn't want to go into the property. He forgotten about the property already, that piece of property, for 10 over years. And to know that the piece of property actually has got the tree growing inside, and the whole entire house looked like haunted house. So there are property like this, you know, they have got too many property, 20 over property, 30 over property. They totally forgotten about this piece of property. Another story is whereby my friend bought another property. The moment we walked in, the whole entire roof fell down in front of him. So I was there as well, to witness this, because he asked me to help him with the first bidding. It's his first auction property. So I went in and helped him. And then the moment we drove inside the house, and we went inside the house, the whole entire roof fell down. So these are the things that we need to watch out for when we buy the property. We need to personally go over there and have a look at the property. How is the condition of the property before we actually committed to buy the property? Because some people, they are very familiar with that area. I have a friend who told me that, you know, I'm very familiar with this place already, Vicky. We don't need to go and look. Just help me to go and bid it. Turn out that this property is right in front of the, what is that, sewage treatment plant, whereby, you know, all this, yeah.
It's gonna smell nice.
The aromatic swimming pool. So it turned out that it's right in front of the treatment plant, which we cannot know from our instinct. Even though we know that area very well, we don't know which house is right in front of all this kind of treatment plant and whatnot. So it's better for you to have a look at the property and also do some tedious due diligence. And then after that, you do all this due diligence and you find that, wow, this is a good piece of property, the demand is good, the population is good, the area is good, the structure is good, everything is good. Now then you also need to do some calculation, because I believe a lot of people buy property. Before they buy property, they actually didn't do all the calculation, like, you know, how much is this capital growth going to be, what is the capital appreciation going to be like, and how much is the rental yield. And usually we would do a few formula calculation, so that you know how many percent. We need to convert it into percentage. Don't just, you know, I can get 3,000 from here. So 3,000, if you are paying 3,500 for this installment, then it's not worthwhile for you to go ahead. So if you are paying 3,500, but you are getting a 5,000 ringgit rental, then this is a very, very good deal. And this usually happens. A lot of people think that, you know, how to get more than your rental, your installment. It's impossible that your rental can generate more than your installment. It's actually able to do that, because people usually buy high rebate property whereby they get cash back. These are the properties that usually you cannot get break even. So what we want is, we want a passive income from property, so that this has got a break even and more than break even as well. So all this kind of calculation you need to do. And then you also need to plan out your strategy. What's next? After buying this property, you want to buy it for keeping purpose or flipping purpose. So after you decide on all this already, it's very important for you to also make a phone call to the auctioneer. You need to ask the auctioneer at least like 3 days to 1 week before. You need to ask them whether this property is still ongoing or not, because there are chances whereby all these owners, they do not pay their installment for 6 months, up to a year. Sometimes they didn't pay for up to a year. And suddenly they made some money, or they managed to borrow some money. You know, in Chinese we call 谁都浪淘. In a very, very crucial period, you will be able to get some money out of somewhere. So the moment you get some money, they're able to pay off the bank. This auction will actually revoke. So you need to ask the auctioneer whether this auction is still ongoing or not. Then after that, you will also need to prepare yourself for all this kind of documents. For example, your IC, your registration to auction. So you must make sure that you already register yourself to the auction. You must buy some backdraft as well. Before you go into the auction, there's something called proclamation of sales and condition of sales. There's a piece of paper inside. So make sure that you read through all these details, because all these details is the agreement that you're going to sign. If you are not going to sign it properly, okay, if you are not going to read it properly, chances are you go inside the room, you are going to bounce by all these conditions. So all banks has got different conditions. Some of the banks require you to pay upfront 10% in the room, and then the balance can be swiped by credit card. Some of the bank actually allows you to pay by another bank draft or bank transfer. So they have got different kind of conditions as well. So you must make sure that you pay on time. Otherwise, the 10% will be fully forfeited if you cannot pay. So these are very important. So once you win the auction, you actually sign on the spot as well. Okay.
Wow. That's a lot of things that you actually need to do in order to pick the right property, because there's always going to be risk involved, and there's a lot of things that we need to do to actually mitigate the risk when it comes to auction property, which great. I mean, I've always believed that there's always going to be a trade. Like if you're going to get it below 30% to 40% in market value, there's always going to be a lot more work, a lot more value you got to put in. But I think if you're able to get a property at 30-40%, it's kind of worth it, because you can do a lot to it. I'm assuming that one of the easiest thing you can do to pull money out is just fix it up and then do some refinancing. Is that right? Is that what you teach the people to do?
But of course, if the property is too bad condition, but the price is very good, let's say the price is really below market value, I will buy it as well, but I will fix it first, and then I will sell it slightly higher.
Yep. So the flipping model seems to makes a lot of sense now. Okay, great. Vicky, I've learned so much today from today's call. How can people learn more about your strategies, and how can people learn more about you, and how can people learn more about getting involved in auction property and become profitable like what you did?
I have a few classes. One of the class is actually called Break the Property and Auction Code, whereby I actually teach how you buy property, not just auction property, but also teach you how to buy new development, how to buy sub-sale below market value property. And then because my experience, I really come from a developer background as well. And so I actually know about how they actually run the development. And also from a valuer point of view, I also teach how to do some simple valuation before you buy the property, because it's crucial. You want to go inside the auction room knowing the market value of the property first. So these are the classes that I provide. This is offline class, and on top of that, I also provide online class whereby you can buy your property without using the bank financing. If you cannot borrow money from the bank, just screw it. Don't need to buy using the bank. We actually know how to use a creative way to buy property as well.
Okay, you have a website or you have a social link or anything of that sort so that people can check you out?
Yes, I have. My page is called SR Vicky How. My website is called vickyhow.com, and most of my details of my courses are actually in vickyhow.com.
Fantastic. Vicky, thank you so much for being here, and more importantly, thank you so much for opening up and sharing all the secrets and all the formulas and all the strategies. It's been a pleasure. Hopefully we can do this again.
The pleasure is mine too. Thank you.